Title: From Rags to Riches. Can a poor girl really marry a CEO? Mia Nguyen, 24, stood in front of the glossy high-rise building, staring at her reflection in its mirrored walls. The polished glass reflected everything she wasn't: glamorous, successful, or wealthy. Mia had moved to Singapore 2 years ago from her small hometown in Vietnam, chasing the dream of building a better life. However, reality was harsh. Instead of success, she was stuck waiting tables at an upscale restaurant, scrimping on rent in a tiny shared apartment, and sending money home to her mother and siblings. Yet something extraordinary was about to change her life. She hadn't expected to meet him. Leo Chen, the elusive CEO of Chen Corp, was the kind of man people only saw in glossy magazines or the news. Wealthy, charming, and one of the most sought-after bachelors in the city. Women threw themselves at him, but to Leo, they all seemed the same, glittering smiles hiding shallow intentions. He was tired of people who only wanted to bask in his success. Then he met Mia. The first meeting. The first time Leo Chen met Mia Nguyen, it was by pure chance, a messy, awkward encounter that should have been forgettable. But it wasn't. The evening had begun like every other high society gala. Endless speeches, overpriced champagne, and conversations laced with insincerity. Leo was growing restless, itching to escape the polished smiles and tedious small talk. As the CEO of Chen Corp, he'd become used to this world, one where every handshake carried ulterior motives and every relationship felt transactional. He had just started making his way to the exit when it happened. Mia, balancing a tray of champagne flutes, rushed past in an attempt to deliver drinks to an impatient group of guests. In her haste, she didn't see Leo step into her path. Before she could stop herself, crash. Cold champagne soaked the sleeve of Leo's custom-tailored suit, and empty glasses clinked onto the marble floor, shattering into pieces. Mia gasped, her heart leaping into her throat. "Oh no, I'm so sorry," she stammered, grabbing a napkin and frantically trying to blot his jacket. Leo blinked, surprised. He expected the usual flurry of apologies, followed by excuses. But instead, here was this woman, a waitress, judging by her uniform, who seemed genuinely mortified. There was no fake charm, no attempt to smooth things over for personal gain, just honesty. "Relax," Leo said, his voice calm and reassuring. "It's just a suit." Mia looked up, her cheeks flushing with embarrassment. "But it's probably worth more than my rent," she blurted, instantly regretting the words. To her surprise, Leo laughed, a warm, genuine sound that startled even him. "You're not wrong," he said, amused, "but I won't send you the bill." For a brief moment, their eyes met. And in that instant, Leo saw something in Mia that intrigued him. A glimpse of authenticity in a world that felt anything but real. Mia quickly gathered the broken glass, murmuring apologies under her breath, but Leo found himself lingering. There was something refreshing about her. In a room full of people trying to impress him, she didn't care who he was. "Do you always run into strangers like this? Or am I just lucky?" he teased. Mia gave him a small, sheepish smile. "It's a talent of mine, apparently." Leo's assistant hovered nearby, waiting for instructions, but Leo waved him off. For the first time in ages, he didn't want to leave just yet. There was something captivating about this clumsy, unapologetically real girl who didn't fit into the polished world he knew so well. "Let me make it up to you," Mia said nervously. "At least let me get you another drink." Leo tilted his head, a playful glint in his eyes. "Only if you promise not to spill it on me." That moment marked the beginning of something neither of them could have predicted. For Leo, it was the first time in years he felt more like himself, just a man rather than a CEO everyone wanted a piece of. And for Mia, it was the first time she realized that beneath the layers of wealth and status, Leo Chen was just a person, too. As she handed him a fresh glass of champagne, her hand brushed against his for the briefest second, a spark that neither of them could ignore. It was the start of something extraordinary, and in that moment, Leo knew he wanted to see her again. Their worlds collided one fateful evening at a gala event. Mia, serving drinks at the rooftop venue, accidentally bumped into him, splashing champagne onto his tailored suit. "Oh my God, I'm so sorry," she gasped, panic lacing her voice. Leo looked down, surprised, but not annoyed. He found himself staring into wide brown eyes filled with genuine worry. "It's fine," he said smoothly, waving away his assistant, who was about to scold her. There was something refreshingly real about Mia. Unlike the polished, high society guests around him, she looked out of place, but in the most captivating way. For some reason, Leo found himself staying longer at the bar that night, exchanging quiet banter with Mia during her breaks. Despite her humble circumstances, Mia carried herself with quiet dignity. She was bright, witty, and unapologetically honest. It was the first time in years someone talked to him as a person, not as a business icon. Before he left, Leo handed her his card. "Call me if you're ever free." An unlikely friendship blossomed. At first, Mia thought it was a joke. Why would a billionaire CEO want anything to do with her? But something about Leo intrigued her. Maybe it was the way he spoke to her, like she mattered. A week passed before she finally mustered the courage to text him. What started as casual coffee dates soon blossomed into something deeper. They met in hidden corners of the city, at art galleries, quiet bookstores, and street food stalls. For Leo, it was a breath of fresh air to escape his cutthroat world and spend time with someone untainted by ambition. For Mia, it was a chance to glimpse a world she never thought she'd belong to. However, as their friendship grew, so did her insecurities. She couldn't help but wonder, what does a man like Leo see in someone like me? Mia tried to push those thoughts away, enjoying their time together, until the night she saw his world up close. The reality of their differences. Leo invited her to a lavish charity ball. He told her not to worry about fitting in. She was perfect as she was. But as Mia entered the grand ballroom, she felt like a fish out of water. She wore the only decent dress she owned, and though she looked lovely, it was nothing compared to the dazzling gowns of the other women. Their eyes lingered on her, curious and calculating, their whispered comments trailing behind her like cold winds. Is that Leo's new charity case? She doesn't belong here. Leo sensed her discomfort and tried to reassure her, but it was too late. Mia's heart sank under the weight of those words. She slipped away from the crowd, finding refuge on a quiet balcony. Leo followed her moments later, concern etched on his face. "I told you this wasn't my world," she whispered, blinking back tears. "I'm just a waitress. I'll never fit in." Leo reached for her hand, his grip firm yet gentle. "Mia, I don't care where you come from. You belong with me." Mia's heart ached, torn between the pull of Leo's words
and the fear gnawing at her. Could love really be enough to bridge the vast divide between their worlds? She stared at their intertwined hands, her small calloused fingers nestled in his, an unspoken symbol of everything that made them different. Her voice wavered as she whispered, "But what if your world breaks me? What if I'm not enough?" Leo stepped closer, his dark eyes locking with hers. "Mia, you're more than enough. It's not about what you have or where you come from. It's about you." His thumb traced gentle circles across the back of her hand, grounding her in the moment. "You think I care about fancy dresses or last names? I care about the way you look at me, the way you make me feel real, like I'm not just a name on a Forbes list." Mia bit her lip, her breath catching in her throat. "But the people in your life, your family, the media, they'll never accept someone like me." Leo's gaze softened, but his voice remained steady. "They don't get to decide who I love. I do." He brought her hand to his lips and kissed her knuckles, a quiet promise wrapped in the touch. "And I choose you, Mia. I'll fight for us." She felt the weight of his words settle in her heart, steadying her fears. He wasn't just saying what she wanted to hear. He meant every word. And though the path ahead wasn't going to be easy, Mia knew that with Leo by her side, she could face whatever came next. For the first time in weeks, Mia let herself smile, small but genuine. "Okay," she whispered, her voice barely audible over the quiet hum of the city around them. Leo smiled too, relief washing over him like a wave. "Okay." He pulled her into a tight embrace, and Mia melted against him, letting the warmth of his arms chase away her doubts. For once, it didn't matter that she came from a tiny apartment, or that he was born into privilege. All that mattered was the two of them, standing together in a world that wasn't quite ready for them. But that didn't matter anymore, because they were ready for each other. From that moment on, Mia and Leo knew they'd face challenges. There would be people who doubted them, obstacles they'd have to overcome, and moments where fear would creep back in. But for now, as they stood in the stillness of the night, none of that mattered. They had each other, and that was enough. But could love alone bridge the chasm between their worlds, The price of loving a CEO. As news of their relationship spread, the scrutiny intensified. Paparazzi followed Mia everywhere, snapping unflattering photos of her in her work uniform or catching her walking out of her cramped apartment. Headlines labeled her the poor girl who caught a billionaire. Meanwhile, Leo's business partners and family began to pressure him. His mother, a formidable woman known for her sharp business acumen, confronted him one evening. "She's not one of us, Leo. If you marry her, it'll be a scandal. Think about the company. Think about your reputation." For the first time, Mia saw the cracks in Leo's confidence. She watched as he juggled the demands of his high-powered life and the challenges of their relationship. It was exhausting for both of them. Mia tried to end things, convinced that walking away would spare them both the pain. "You'll be better off without me," she told him, tears streaming down her face. But Leo refused to let go. "Mia, I don't want better. I want you." Finding their own way. Determined to prove that their love was worth fighting for, Leo made a bold decision. He stepped down as CEO. He had spent years building ChenCorp into a global empire. But now he realized that success without happiness was meaningless. His announcement sent shockwaves through the business world, but Leo didn't care. For the first time, he felt free. With Leo no longer tied to the corporate world, they began building a life that was truly their own. They moved into a cozy apartment in a quieter part of the city, away from the media frenzy. Mia found a job she loved, working at a nonprofit organization focused on education, helping children from disadvantaged backgrounds. Leo started a small consulting firm, working with young entrepreneurs and sharing the lessons he had learned. His new career gave him the balance he had been missing, and with Mia by his side, he felt more fulfilled than ever. Happily ever after, but on their own terms. Months passed, and their love only deepened. They learned to navigate life together, supporting each other through challenges and celebrating every small victory. Mia no longer felt like an outsider. With Leo's unwavering love and her own hard work, she had carved out a place for herself in this new world. A rainy afternoon proposal. The sky outside the cafe was painted in shades of gray, raindrops tapping gently against the window panes like a soft lullaby. The warm aroma of coffee filled the cozy space, wrapping around Mia and Leo like a familiar embrace. They sat at their usual corner table, tucked away from the bustling city streets, a place that had become their little sanctuary over the past year. It was the place where they had laughed over mismatched pastries, shared their dreams late into the night, and stolen glances that lingered longer than words. Today, it felt like any other afternoon, until Leo reached across the table and took Mia's hand. Her heart skipped a beat when she noticed the nervous flicker in his eyes, a rare vulnerability she wasn't used to seeing from him. Mia, he began softly, as if testing the weight of her name on his lips. Do you remember the first time we sat here? She smiled, nodding. Of course. You ordered black coffee and hated it, but pretended it was fine so you wouldn't embarrass yourself. Leo chuckled, the sound warm and familiar. Yeah, that was my first act of bravery with you. He paused, and his expression grew serious. But everything after that, none of it was pretend. Mia tilted her head, her heart thudding in her chest as if it knew what was coming. Leo slowly stood up from his seat and with a deep breath got down on one knee. The soft buzz of the cafe faded into the background. The rain outside seemed to fall quieter, as if the world itself were holding its breath. Mia Nguyen, Leo said, his voice steady but filled with emotion. I've been a lot of things in my life. A businessman, a son, a friend. But with you, I've learned what it means to just be me. Mia's breath hitched as her eyes began to well with tears. Every step of this journey, whether it was easy or difficult, public or private, you've stood by me, Leo continued, his gaze unwavering. And I know life won't always be perfect, but if I have you, I know we can build something real, something beautiful. From the pocket of his coat, Leo pulled out a small velvet box. He opened it to reveal a simple but elegant ring, a delicate gold band with a tiny diamond that shimmered like a secret promise. Mia Nguyen, he said, his voice a soft plea. Will you marry me? The answer. For a moment, Mia forgot how to breathe. The emotions swirled inside her, joy, disbelief, and the overwhelming feeling of being truly seen and cherished. She thought of all the moments that had led them here, the nights spent worrying about the future, the laughter shared under the stars, and the promises made in quiet whispers. And now, here he was, the man who had seen her at her worst and loved her anyway, asking her to be his forever. Mia's lips trembled as she smiled through the tears spilling down her cheeks. She nodded, her voice soft but clear. "Yes, Leo, yes." Relief and joy washed over Leo's face as he slipped the ring onto her finger, his hand shaking just slightly. Then, without a second thought, he stood and pulled her into his arms, holding her as if he never wanted to let go. Forever starts here. The other cafe patrons noticed the proposal and began to clap, but Mia and Leo barely registered it. In that moment, the world outside melted away. It was just the two of them, wrapped in each other's arms, as if time had stopped just for them. Leo pressed a kiss to her temple, then whispered into her ear, "We're really doing this, aren't we?" Mia laughed through her tears, happiness bubbling over. "Yeah, we really are." They sat back down at their table, their hands still intertwined. The rain continued to fall outside, but inside, it felt like sunshine. They didn't need grand gestures or lavish parties to celebrate this moment. This simple, quiet proposal in the cafe where their story had truly begun was more than enough. Because love isn't about the noise, it's about the quiet moments that say everything. And as Leo looked across the table at Mia, the woman who had changed his life in ways he never imagined, he knew that this was only the beginning of a new chapter. A chapter filled with laughter, challenges, and endless love. The rain outside drummed on, but Mia and Leo were already lost in a world of their own. One where they had everything they needed, each other, forever. He asked, holding out a simple ring. Nothing flashy, just a delicate band that symbolized everything they had built together. With tears in her eyes, Mia nodded. Yes, it wasn't the fairy tale proposal Mia had once imagined, but it was perfect because it was theirs. Epilogue. Love redefined. Mia never became the glamorous socialite people expected the wife of a former CEO to be. She still wore comfortable clothes, still preferred street food over fancy dinners, and still stayed close to her roots. And Leo? He loved her all the more for it. They didn't live in a penthouse or host extravagant parties. Instead, they built a warm, loving home filled with laughter and late-night conversations. They found joy in the simple things: morning walks by the river, lazy Sundays reading books, and cooking together in their tiny kitchen. Mia's journey wasn't about becoming rich or marrying a CEO. It was about finding love that accepted her for who she was and learning to embrace a life that felt truly her own. Because in the end, the greatest wealth wasn't in Leo's bank account. It was in the life they built together, one small moment at a time. And yes, a poor girl really could marry a CEO. But the real question was, could they find happiness together? The answer, for Mia and Leo, was a resounding yes.
The Stories book is a captivating collection of tales that traverse diverse genres and emotions, spanning the realms of fantasy, science fiction, romance, and mystery. Each narrative is a journey into the unexpected, weaving intricate plots and compelling characters. With a skillful blend of vivid imagery and thought-provoking themes, this anthology invites readers to explore the depths of imagination and discover the universal threads that connect us all. From heartwarming moments to spine, we hope you enjoyed these captivating video stories. Be sure to subscribe to our channel for more heartwarming content like this. Thanks for watching, and keep spreading the video story.